Good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and start the meeting. First item on the agenda is consider approving the minutes held from June 22nd.
I make a motion, we approve the June 22nd minutes.
Motion made second by Bob. All in favor? Thank you. Introducing the next thing, we're going to turn it over to the chief here, and chief is going to introduce us to our new officers.
Thank you. As you all know, through the budget cycle, we were able to have positions approved. We were able to hire 4 firefighter EMTs. They've all started their work for 2 weeks of training, and then they'll go on their rotation for their on-duty rotations. So we'll introduce Nate Bernier, who most of you already know. Nate's been with us in Oakland on the department for 12 years.
Yeah,
11, 12 years as a call volunteer. He was a career police officer who's made a career change into full-time fire department. So we're fortunate to have him. Comes to us with a lot of internal knowledge, a lot of knowledge of the town, and we're lucky to be able to hire him. Thank you, Nate. Adam Clement. Adam's from Rome. He started as a junior in Rome 17 years ago. He has 17 years of experience in fire service. He recently left a job full-time at Delta Ambulance and have gone per diem. He works per diem for Delta and for Reddington, and has come to join us full-time. So again, Adam brings us a lot of EMT and firefighter experience, and we're very fortunate that he wanted to come work in Oakland. Emily Newell, she comes to us from Unity. She has 11 and 12 years also on the fire department in Unity. And her background was she worked in real estate with investment properties and with her father. And she's looking at a career change into the fire service full-time. Like I said, she has the volunteer experience. And she is in our EMT class that we're hosting at the fire station that we got the grant for. So we're fortunate to be able to hire somebody out of that class that we put together. And again, somebody with some experience wants to make that career change. And we're lucky enough as well to have her choose to come work here with us in Oakland. Our 4th hire couldn't be here tonight. His name is Antonio Rivera. I'll bring him another night. He had a family emergency that he had to attend to. And he has 4 years full-time experience in the Air Force with the Air Force Fire Department in California. He was stationed in California. So he recently finished his tour and has moved to Maine with his wife and young child. And again, we got somebody with some experience, and firefighter, EMT, as well as Emily has some officer training as well. So I feel that we did very, very well through our process, getting good applicants. We had a total of 15 applicants that we were able to choose what we felt were the best for. And we're hoping that they will work with us and stay with us for quite some time here in Oakland.
Thank you, sir.
That's all right.
Congratulations, Adam.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item up for discussing a state grant for the Oakland boat launch.
Okay, so we've had some issues with our boat launch. If you've been down there, the cement pads in the water that's starting to crumble on the sides and breaking. This is under Eric's review. I'm going to turn the floor over to Eric so we can talk to you about what we're planning on here.
Yeah, this has been like a 3-year process of people making us aware about issues going on with the boat launch. We know we've got a pretty rapidly deteriorating set of concrete piers there. I mean, some of you guys have been around long enough to remember when we actually moved the piers from the now swim area over to where they are now 30+ years ago. So we have some real issues. We got by the first year with just doing the best we could with filling the voids with rocks and stuff. The second year it became a little bit more of an issue. I was fortunate enough as a stopgap measure to get Charlie Bader's group to help me out by actually getting a crew in the water with some 1-inch stone, filling the voids. But we actually have concrete planks down there that have 2 feet of them broken off now and separated, broken connectors and all that stuff. So we've got quite an issue going on there that we knew needed more addressing than just 1-inch stone. So enter the state boating division, made contact with them to set up a site visit for the spring. Heather Siders lives out in Belgrade. She manages that program, and Bill Cunningham also came from the state. He does a lot of the ramp installs. Myself, I invited Jeff Hall and AJ Kane to come, and we all partook in this little meeting to have them review the condition of our ramps, and et cetera. So their opinion, of course, was they're in pretty rough shape, and one of the possible remedies to do it right is actually known as a boating facilities fund. They do some grants to help communities with these types of costs, because these are extensive costs, these ramps. So I thought to bring Boyd on and help with this, the grant process for this. It's due July 20th. I brought Boyd on 6 weeks or so ago to help with this because he has the most grant writing experience of all of us. Grant writing is funny. Anyone can write them. Not anyone can write one that gets funded. So that's the key. Boyd was fortunate enough to help with that and help us put a grant together that we hope to be able to submit by the 20th deadline. And I know, Ella, I believe you made copies of what I gave you earlier today.
They all got it.
What, excuse me? They all have it, okay. You'll see that the nature of this grant is a 75-25 reimbursement grant. It's not like some of the other grants we've done, like out on the hiking trail and stuff. This is an actual grant where if this was to happen, the town fronts the money. The town then gets reimbursed back from the state for 75% of it. It's right now, they don't have a lot of money. One of the things Heather told me during the site visit in May was they were only looking at $300,000 possible to award to communities for these types of things. They've upped that a little bit. I don't know the exact amount, but it's not a large amount. So as I learned a little bit more how the process worked, I became more interested that maybe this is something we really want to look at, because the grant process is a very competitive one. It's a rate by the book, sign numbers, blah, blah, blah. And then I got some information that only one of the community to this point has applied for these funds. So that piqued my interest more than knowing 50 communities might be interested for $300,000. So talking with Heather and some of the other people involved with this, they encouraged me to really think about the town going forward and trying to secure this grant to redo their boat launch. These are very difficult projects to do because it's all below water. And the more I learned about it with Heather and Bill Cunningham, I had mentioned to Jeff, I was like, initially, is there anything that we can do? You know, always trying to think on the cheap, how do we do things? And Jeff basically said, this is beyond our scope with our manpower and our equipment that we have. So there are contractors out there that do these types of projects. Boyd is part of his paperwork here, grant proposal that he's almost got done, has had some conversations with some of them, hence coming up with some of these numbers. It's kind of funny that he's come up with $235,000 and you may be sitting there going, wow, that's a lot of money. when I mentioned to Heather that we could be looking at that for a type of number to redo our launch, she says, didn't even blink an eye. She goes, it doesn't surprise me one bit. So things are expensive right now. All of you guys know that. Everything's expensive. So where we sit with the grant process, the application is due to the voting division on the 20th of this month if we're going to submit it for consideration. They are reviewing the grants that they receive on August 4th. It is conceivable that if Boyd's application scores higher than right now, the one other community, again, who knows what's going to happen in the next 7 days, we could receive, 75% of the 235, or for round numbers, maybe we do the projects for 200,000. But the thing that may scare people is the town is responsible for the month fronting the cost. And the state through this grant program reimburses communities once they see that the towns do what they say they're gonna do. They reimburse 75% of it. The town then has to figure out how it's gonna come up with 25% of the cost. So for a conversation's sake, 200,000, 50,000, 150 them, 50 us. I even asked the question to Heather last night that part of this document is the council needs to authorize the manager to take some actions to commit the town. I said, have you ever had any applications put in to meet the 20th deadline that didn't have the action that's needed by the council and is part of this package that you guys have tonight? And she said, we would allow you to actually submit your application without the town council action. But of course, come August 4th, if we are awarded the money, we're gonna need to commit and sign on. I even took it one step further that I know it seemed to be some reluctance that maybe, and again, I know there's many different ways we can come up with the funding, but if one of the ways to come up with the funding was a special town meeting, about calling a special town meeting to do so, I even raised the question, would it even be possible to wait until May town meeting and have it as a regular warrant article without doing it? And she said, it'd be possible, but if the town is not signed on, and Mike, I don't know, I think you're gonna agree with me. The legislature sometimes has ways of taking unclaimed money and we would lose out. So she would not recommend that there's not a grab under certain circumstances of funds. Did I word that fairly correct, politically correct, Mike? Okay. My point to all of you is I see this, and I know it's not simple, but in the sense of, I see this as simply a three-part thing. We may be talking about this for nothing. Come August 4th, I get a call from the voting division saying, you guys lost. Boyd wrote a cruddy application and got outscored. So you're not getting any money. Then I know we got a mute point. That's one point. The second point would be on August 4th, they call and say, we're funding $150,000 because your grant won. Then we're forced with, how are we gonna come up with the $50,000 on the town side? And yes, we have to fund all the money. I get that could be difficult for some to swallow, but to me, that's just a pass through of money. You guys have done it on other projects over the years as well. And thirdly, this is another way of looking at it, guys. We get the grant, we go through the process of saying, can we come up with 50,000? And you guys saying, no, we can't. We say to the voting division people, thanks for the pledge of your money, but no thanks, we're turning it back in. So in my mind, it's as simple as three ways this can go. But the only thing I would say to that is, the number one thing to me is, it seems logical to think that we know we're gonna have to replace this launch somehow, some way, that we need to keep ourselves at least in the game long enough to know if we're gonna qualify for 75% of the money to do the project.
Good question or statement?
So the one part I didn't understand, when you said we need to front up the money, are you saying we have to authorize, let's use your 200,000, we have to authorize 200,000?
That's how I see it,
And
Bob.
then, okay, so it doesn't matter whether we authorize 200,000 or 50,000, the council can't do that. We have to go to special town meeting. And you wouldn't want to go to a special town meeting until you knew that you need it. But I think you'd need it all, from what I'm hearing. You'd need to go to a special town meeting. Town meeting would have to say, yeah, we'll give you 200,000 with the understanding you're gonna give us 150 back.
State, hopefully, yeah.
So hopefully,
We're gonna know by then if we get it. We're gonna have to
Right.
meet our share of the agreement to lock it in.
assuming that everyone thinks the plan is a good plan, and I don't.
Yeah, and
Sounds okay to me. I'm more interested in the process. It sounds like
Right.
we have to get 200,000, and the only way to do that would be to have a special town meeting.
Boyd raised, I chatted a lot with Boyd about this. He raised a great question. And when you're going through these processes and you're coming up with a number and you're looking at contracts to do this project, you want to make sure you have enough money. You don't want to go back to the voters down the road and say, oh, I didn't really need 200,000, I needed 250, because then we're really burnt with the voters.
I don't see any way that the town can go forward until do the application. And then if we get it, then we,
I think that's
Figure out the
really
process.
ultimately what I'm asking of you guys tonight is, I don't want to be snubbed now. I want us to stay in the game at least until the 20th deadline, get our application in, and we'll know relatively soon. We're gonna know on August 4th whether we're in the game or not.
I have a question there. Is this grant offered yearly, or is this just a one?
This is a one-time thing, and they never know how much money they're gonna have.
Right up against the fence. Wouldn't it make more sense to apply for it next year and have the $58,000, 25% portion from the town approved at town meeting instead of having a special town meeting?
I don't think so, because I like our chances 1 against 1. And if it works out that way, then all we have to do is resubmit the following year.
Do you know when the money's available? You said.
I do not know.
What's that?
I do not know when that money is available.
Because it's gonna take.
And the
some
money's
time
good for
just-
2 years. I do know that. I tried to make as many notes as I can and get myself up to speed on this. I'm not the grant expert that I wish I was, but I was just trying to look at this as a way, the town's gonna have to do something about that boat launch. Whether we go it alone or whether we get someone to help pay for it is ultimately what it's gonna come down to. You know, I was thinking at the lake today with the kids, I can't think of one facility that we have recreation wise that has more economic impact to the town this time of year than that one, because Mike sees what I see, some of you guys see what I see. There's an awful lot of $100,000 boats on the lake right now since COVID hit. So there's a lot of people spending money. And one of the things Heather said to me, which kind of surprised me, one of their interests in the project is they view our launch as one of pretty significant regional impact. The Belgrade Lakes are pretty darn busy. So I'd really like to see us stay in the game and as long as we can and see what they say.
We do have a fund available that's for that boat landing park area. It's got $62,000 in it. So as far as raising the money for our portion, we do have that set aside. But we can't spend it unless we have a town meeting vote to authorizing us to spend it.
And it's still not clear whether we actually have to approve the 200,000.
Well, if we're gonna be
I
spending,
mean,
if we have to fund the
think you
money,
would.
we're gonna have to have approval to spend it all. And, that's obviously, I would think that with the state, guarantee on it, it wouldn't be much of a risk, but we've just been down.
And I'm not convinced, if we were to dig in this far, that there's not some way that the state won't work with us on that piece of that, if we're the one.
Tell them you know Mike.
Yeah, well, then we automatically are out. I don't know how we get out of the game before that we find out we won it or didn't win it, is what I'm saying.
So basically, what we're looking for council, after your questions are exhausted, is if you will give us permission to move forward with this project.
Yeah, I had one, I'm going to do it. All right. The people that own the power stations on the Meslonsky stream have to put so much money into recreational things. I don't know if they do it just when they get relicensed or if they try to do some annually or not. Do you know if they've put in any recently on any projects?
Well, I know what you said, but I don't know that if any money has, I know they have some recreational spots.
Part of their FERC licensing
Yeah.
is to donate money or build recreational facilities on the lakes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, Synergex, our Hager was how we got our hiking trail in. There's the thing over there on the Kennebec that was part of that. I know exactly what you're saying. I don't know where there's any money though, Dana.
Yeah.
And money is what we're talking, I realize.
Yeah. I didn't know, it's not part of what we're voting on now,
Yeah.
but it might be
Oh, I remember that.
worthwhile discussing with them to see if they have done anything recently and see if they're willing to. We don't want to have it contingent on us doing our thing, but they might help us with our part of the payment when the time comes.
We're
I
gonna
don't
have to
know.
do something to that launch real soon.
Yeah.
However we choose to do it is,
Yeah, I think that's completely separate from
Yeah.
what we're trying
yeah,
to do.
no, but I know exactly what you're saying, Dana.
Mr. Woolman?
I think the idea is worthwhile and we should do it. I have a couple of questions that have nothing to do with whether we do it or not, but the outcome of, you mentioned 3 scenarios. Do they ever split the money? So let's say they've got this $200,000, whatever it is they've got in the fund, but there might be more added to it this year. So let's say they go up to 300 or whatever number. And if there are 2, would they split the monies? And again, you probably can't answer that question. If they split the monies and each group was eligible for 150, I guess even if we can't do the whole thing, like there's some things that we're gonna have to delay because we just don't have enough money. I would say you do as much as you can. Big project. We may find that when we go out to bid, that we can do more for less. So, I think there's a lot to gain from it. I'd love to know what the other launches have done, because, we've got, in our area, probably 8 boat launches. What have they done for upkeep? Obviously, these companies have probably serviced them as well.
Yeah.
And, Boyd, I've got all the confidence in the world with Boyd, but when they get their experts in here and say, well, we would do it this way.
Yeah.
So, I think this opens up the door to do a lot. And as you said, the boat launches are important.
I know I actually know the guy above Heather too, and we were talking about, this used to be a 50-50 program. And they went to a 75-25 to make it more palatable for towns to actually do something. The state launches, it's not a big deal. They just tackle it head on through the state. The Sheepscot launch is absolutely beautiful, but that's in their thing and not reaching out to the towns. But I hear what you're saying, and I think Boyd would always be the engineer erring on the side of, if we're gonna go to anybody and ask for money, let's have enough money to do what we need to do.
Now, I think the Salmon Lake boat launch is owned by the Fish and Wildlife Bureau. So they probably have to maintain that. That's what you're sort of saying. Some of the boat launches are owned by a division of the state.
Right,
They repair them.
right.
But because Meslonsky is not,
Well, and I was only half in jest on, but I even said to Heather on our site visit, so why don't we just make this a state launch and the town get rid of the
donated to the
responsibility?
state.
And Heather said to me, and I didn't really mean that, I would never want the town to get rid of any of its facilities, but she said to me that would require legislative work to do. But believe me, I played every angle I could, guys.
I'd make a motion, we authorize the town manager to have Eric proceed with this, and we'll see if we're successful, and then we'll have to have a town meeting.
Second.
Motion made, second by Dawn, all in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good briefing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next item up is discussion of the mooring ordinance committee.
Okay, so I put together a committee. We've got people from the McGraw Pond and Massawasky Lake. We've got some people who are not from the lakes. There's 8 people altogether. And you can answer any questions that you'd like to talk about. I don't know if these people are here for the boat mooring.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on that.
Okay, yeah, just a minute. So any discussion on this today?
Questions?
Do we have a list in our packet?
You should have a list in your packet. Did you bring it with you, Don?
I didn't see it.
Would it be possible to read the names of who's on the committee? Yes, we don't.
The gentleman in the back would like to hear the names. Louis Lester from McGraw Pond. Greg Conniff from Massawasky. Jim Booton lives on South Alpine Street. He owns the sailboat that's out in the water. Harvey Morrow owns a right of way to McGraw Pond. Don Borman, one of our council members. Myself, Stephen Newmeister, lives on Massawasky Lake. He's part of Cedar Village. And Lisa Burton, who is somebody who is up on Libby Hill.
She's my neighbor.
She's your neighbor, yeah. I think probably the majority of the people that are on this this committee are pro ordinance of some type. I think there's 1 or 2 people that would like to see as minimal of an ordinance as possible. So it should be a healthy discussion.
Ames, you had something you want to say? sir?
Yes, yeah. I live on Libby Hill, and so as of now, there's one boat that's sparking controversy. And I understand that this might be eye-opening for future problems, especially if everyone sees Massawasky Lake as a free-for-all to park boats on. I also understand Mr. Perkins' concern about how backed up the traffic can be at the Oakland boat landing. While I do agree that proactive changes could limit these issues, I'm very concerned about how it will affect those of us with moorings already in place. My family can't afford waterfront property. We searched all over RSU 18 school district for a house and bought our place on Libby Hill solely because it was part of an association that shares a common beach lot. There's a limited number of moorings down there, and I was lucky enough to obtain mine from somebody who was moving away. Every time we consider selling our house and moving, one thing keeping us here is the ability to hop on our boat and go do what we enjoy most in a town that we love. As an association, we respect our neighbors who own property on either sides of our shared lot and keep our footprint to a minimum. We use a 2-point mooring system for each boat so that they stay straight. Each person is responsible for having them inspected regularly. In addition, our lot is gated and locked, and there are no trespassing signs visible from all sides. Some of the suggested ordinances discussed at the last meeting, such as 1 mooring every 50 feet, would mean that we would be able to keep our trampoline for the neighborhood kids, and we can keep 1 boat out there. The rest of the families would lose their boat access. Some of us go out every afternoon. I certainly try to myself. If we were to lose our mooring rights, we would also constantly be in and out of the boat landing, creating increased traffic, which would be counterproductive to the goal. In the past several decades, there's not been a single issue with our mooring system. And I know the town needs to move forward and address how to discourage multiple new moorings from popping up wherever they want. So in addition to any future plans on this, I'd like to see a motion that if there are new ordinances made, existing moorings are protected under a grandfather clause and our way of life is preserved, or as mentioned in the draft ordinance, that you make concessions for developments. And I have some text here used in Cumberland County. Almost every town in Cumberland County has an ordinance with this exemption for a common mooring area, and it states, a cluster of moorings in an area designated and approved by the town so as not to create a hazard to navigation. Such common mooring areas may result from, but are not limited to, abutting non-conforming shorefront lots with narrow frontage, shoreline topography such as a cove that constrains navigation fairway, and this is the part that applies to us, a common shorefront access area where multiple inland landowners share deeded right-of-ways to the water body. So we're looking to get some kind of, as we move forward with this, and it looks like it's gonna gain traction and something is gonna happen, we wanna make sure that us that already have it in place, that doesn't apply to us, or there's something in writing that gives us an exemption or some kind of grandfathering in. We're concerned, we're just trying to nip it in the bud.
Right. As of this point right now, there really is no problem. I mean, I am somebody who, the fewer laws that we have to enforce, the better off we are. For one thing, these type of civil ordinances are all but impossible to enforce when you go to courts, because the courts are so plugged up. We've got one sailboat that popped up that's generated all this discussion. I can assure you that if we do this, we're gonna take all of this stuff into consideration. Because I don't want to create, this is very divisive. We're dealing with somebody's playground. I worked as a police officer for 15 years. I can write people speeding tickets all day long and they understand it. You go out, you work on a police boat, and you write somebody a no wake zone violation or drinking a beer on a boat, you're dealing with a problem because you're in their playground. So I understand the passion on both sides of this. So Brian, you have my word. If we pull this thing together, it's going to be, we're going to be aware of everybody's feelings. We're going to try to make it work.
Okay. Appreciate that. Now, how do I find out moving forward? Because I can't, I'm not gonna come to every
Would you like to
town
be part
meeting.
of this ordinance? I mean, this committee?
What's that?
Would you like to be part of this committee?
I've, that's been mentioned to me and I considered it.
Say the word and I'll put you on here. We'll vote you in right now.
Yeah, let's add it to the list.
Is the council okay with this?
Absolutely.
We've got interested parties. I think it's good to have all sides of the issue covered.
So I'm the president of the other association in
Can we
Cedar
have
Village.
your name then?
Yeah, Sasha Tavir-Bani.
Thank you, Sasha.
I'd love to be part of the committee if I could be part of the committee as well.
Where are you from, Sasha?
So I live in Cedar Village. I'm part of the other association on Escalon.
Okay, so you're part of Cedar Village and you would like to see this ordinance take place? So because I've got somebody, I got Steve Newmeister who's down there.
Yeah, so he's part of the condo association.
Right,
So our deeded access is actually their land and we have a 50-foot right of way.
right.
So I'd like to be part of it as part of the lakefront association, not part of the condo, which Steve is.
Ours is a separate association, not really affiliated with them. other than our
Steve has his
bylaws.
own lakefront.
But you have the same concerns. You're part of a group of moorings out there.
Yeah.
As well as Steve, as well as Brian. I really don't need your help. Okay? I just want to be frank with you. I think we've got enough people that are fighting for your cause that are on this, and I don't want to go and muddy it up because I've got 9 people on the committee now. You'll make 10. We'll make it difficult to move forward. Okay? And I appreciate your willingness to step onto it, but I want to try to make this as simple and as smooth as possible. Thank you. And if I need you, I want to get your information and I'll ask you to sit on it. Is that okay with you? Thank you.
Don? I support what you just said, because already I had a little bit of a concern because don't we already have 2 people from Cedar Village on the list?
To my knowledge, we only, oh, yes, Greg Conniff.
So we've got 2 now.
But
We're
Greg isn't part of the association. Greg is part of our road. There's a lot of different associations. in
sure.
Cedar Village.
I know, that's what I'm saying, though. As soon as you start adding more and more people who have similar, not the same, but similar feelings, you're gonna have a committee that's gonna be overly responsive to one position. And not saying, but I think as the committee, we need to bring in people from road associations, from the Lakes Alliance to see, what's out there. Why are people for or against it? So that we can make, I'm not sure if it's gonna be a popular, no matter what we do, it may not be popular with somebody. And that's the scary part, because you've got people who want as strict as you can be, and there are gonna be people who let's leave it alone. And somehow we're gonna have to look at all those issues and try to come up with something that's palatable. But I don't want the committee to be so directly visioned that it's gonna be hard for us to make a decision.
An example of the passion here is we typically have 2, maybe 3 people that show up at these council meetings. We've had 2 discussions on this boring ordinance and we packed the room. This is what we're dealing with. So we know that no matter which way we go, we're gonna lose. And, it's an unfortunate place to be for us. And, but it is what it is, and we're gonna try to be as fair as possible, make sure that all these concerns are addressed.
And we do want people who represent different to come and share their thoughts with us.
I have a question. Is this something that goes to vote, or is this more of like a, council decision?
We're gonna be tasked with taking a look at this, making a decision whether we even need an ordinance. And if we need one, we're gonna try to go and take a stab at drafting one. I've drafted one already, and it takes into concern everything that you've mentioned. It takes into concern the person who's got the sailboat that takes 2 hours to set up when they put it in there. And it takes into concern the fact that, people with existing ordinances.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna show my hand on that until after I find out where the committee is, because I want this, and then what we'll do with that is we draft up an ordinance that is palatable for all of us that are on the committee. We'll deliver that to the council. And, we'll pack the room, we'll have a bigger room, and it will be probably a discussion, so hopefully we'll come up with something.
Anybody else?
No, I just agree with like Brian. It's been around for like 30 years.
Yep.
Just hate to see it go.
Yeah, we won't hurt you.
Go ahead, sir.
Doug Fishing, I'm with Brian and in the association. Anything we can do, we want to be kind and work with others. I've been there for 23 years, had a boat more there for the last 22 years. And you're right, people are very passionate, it's their playground. But we can all work together, and I know the 22 years that I've been there, we've been really good relations with our neighbors, and we try to be very safe and conscientious to everyone, so everyone can have a good time and enjoy that. So I thank you for doing this committee, and I'm happy to help in any way I can going forward. Perfect, thank you.
I'm the president of the Libby Hill Owners Association, and I'm not gonna add anything to what's already been said. Let's move on. You got it, Doug.
Ella, these meetings, these committees are public meetings, right?
They are public
Anybody
meetings.
of interest can sit in
And I
and
will
listen.
I'll make sure that
If you're
they're
not a
on
member of the
town's
committee,
webpage.
they're usually public meetings, so.
Right.
Well, I think I'll speak for at least the Libby Hill North Association. We won't flood that committee meeting. You have work to do. We have a representative. God bless you, and turn ahead without having too much. Sturm und Drang is the German expression. Too much excitement.
We'll do our best.
There you go.
I'm in the same place as Sasha. I'm in her association. I agree with what's been said as far as make it so everybody can still have what they already have. And which is part of the reason we purchased the property we have.
I think the big stumbling block that we're dealing with right now, I completely understand the gentleman who owns the sailboat. I mean, if you have a sailboat, if you've ever dealt with them, it's a 2-hour project, putting the mast up and all the rigging and all that kind of stuff. And he wants to enjoy that boat. And he's a taxpayer, he's very articulate, very intelligent gentleman. I think that's the thing that we have to deal with, to be honest with you. Is, I've been here for 24 years in the town of Oakland, and I've never once dealt with a complaint with the moorings that are currently out there. It's a non-issue, and I don't want to make it an issue. I want to solve the issue with the sailboat. If that means that we have to have a mooring field where we have a certain amount of boats that are allowed to be in that, and do what Cedar Village does with the moorings, then that's what we'll do. But I want to beat this up. I want to make sure we're going in the
Because
right
I see,
direction.
I actually looked up the ordinance from Sydney, and that's what they have. Their town-owned
Yep.
mooring field, and it's based on the number of people they have there that have a boat that's not easy to get in and out.
Yeah. And that's the issue that
It
we have to
seems
deal
to
with.
work for them, but I haven't heard anything.
Right. The concern is, though, since we have one sailboat that's currently out there, somebody from the city of Waterville is gonna come over that's been driving their boat back and forth and is having an epiphany. It's like, wow, I don't have to haul my boat anymore. Let's park it out in front of the cemetery like that. And it's just gonna grow and that's gonna be a problem. That's what we have to prevent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex?
Oh, thanks, Mike. My only concern so far, and I think part of the reason why you've kind of had an emotional response is the information flow isn't super great. So when I went on the town website, it just said mooring ordinance, which caused my antenna to go up and say what's going on. So the more information you can just post on the website saying this is what we're talking about, this is what we're thinking about. Because I had a good chat with Mike and he kind of calmed me down on some of the concerns, but not knowing that makes it hard to really
My
digest what.
office door is always open. You don't have to make appointments to come and see me. If you have any concerns, please just stop in, sit down, have a conversation with me.
Fine, Colin?
Couple of you have mentioned how your association handles the issue. And one of the things I'm looking not forward to, because this is not going to be something that we really look forward to, but is to have some copies of, I think you mentioned, or somebody mentioned that you have so many moorings and somebody left and gave up their mooring spot and somebody else. Do you have copies of the language that you use to manage your own local homeowners association, road association, condo association, which speaks to mooring that might help us as we discuss the issues? So I guess, if you have some of those, if you could forward them to Ella so that we can review them and not,
As
wait till the meeting.
participants in the committee, we'll make sure what we have.
Great.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to the manager's report. Thank you all for your input. Very good job.
Thank you.
Very respectable.
Thank you. Okay, manager's report. The first thing I'm gonna start with is Memorial Hall. Last night, the Historical Society, the Oakland Historical Society voted unanimously to partner with the Memorial Halls group with this effort of renovation of Mem Hall. What this does for us is it allows us to use a 501c3 status. It opens up the door for more money that we might not have gotten otherwise. And the other thing is it helps the Historical Society because it gives them a larger purpose and more importance into the community. So that's a good thing. The other thing I want to talk about is Oak Fest. The triathlon on Sunday has been canceled due to lack of participation. We're still dealing with COVID, and we had 5 people sign up for it. The cost of us to get the timing company was going to be about $1,500 this year. So financially, it wasn't going to work, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we're exhausted by the time Saturday night rolls around. So we'll see where it goes next year. MDOT grant. They sent out an email not too long ago that I sent to the Department of Transportation regarding the $75,000 grant the town had won back in 2013. Apparently that email shook up enough people so that they're now doing the project this summer. Not only are they doing that project, but they're also repairing a portion of Monroe Ave, that bad intersection right there that we've been trying to get them to do for a long time. And they're going to take care of that. So that might be resolved. T-Mobile, we're going into mediation with T-Mobile on Monday. Mediation's 8 hours. It's over the property tax abatement process that they've gone through. I think I've briefed you guys a little bit on this. This is a 24 community situation. Town of Oakland's 1/24 of that. We currently have got about $20,000 tied up in legal fees on this. We met with the Kennebec Regional Development Authority today, and it looks like they're going to participate in dividing out those fees so that we're not going to end up getting stuck with full $20,000. What T-Mobile did was they hired this whole cottage industry of these people that fight for property taxes for these large corporations. So they hired a company out of Texas. They came up, we had our local bar, the Board of Assessment Review. We denied him, and now we're into the next stage of it, which is court mediation, and we'll see where that goes. Yeah, so I have no idea where it's going to go from here. That's all.
Don't they do that? Oh, excuse me, Don, go ahead.
Are we still doing the tours of Memorial Hall during Oakfest or that
Yes.
Friday?
Thank you. Right. On Oak Fest, there will be tours of the facility for those who haven't been in Memorial Hall. It's surprising, actually, I've been giving a lot of personal tours to seniors in the local area who've never been in the facility. I mean, this is an amazing building. If you've never been there, you need to go and take a look at it. We'll be offering tours up on weekends. It's going to be about a $3 million project to bring this thing back to life. This is the most historical building in town of Oakland. It's one of 4 Civil War monuments in the state that it's actually a building. It's got a theater upstairs. It's just, there was a bank down there. We've got the bank vault. It's amazing to see this thing. Oakland, when it started, that's where we held our town meetings. There's plenty of room upstairs to hold our town meetings back in that facility again. So, you know, this is an effort by a group of people that really are passionate about Oakland's history. And we're going to be looking for some help on this. So please stop by when we have the scheduled tours, and I'm glad to give you a personal tour. Kelly is the chairperson of that committee, and I'm sure she'll be right there with us. So
The reason I, asked Ella to, you folks are all interested in the town. So you're the type people that we'd like to have come and take a tour, see what's there, see what's available. So as we move forward, you're gonna hopefully say, yeah, this is a fantastic facility and we're gonna support it. You also represent some associations which have like-minded people. So it would be very good for you to spread the word and see if we can make these tours worthwhile. If we do a tour every hour, and if we have 3 of them, it'd be great to have them all packed with people who are interested in seeing what we have for facility. So I guess I'm asking you to spread the word. We don't have a schedule out. It's still a couple weeks away. But put it on your calendar. You can go downtown and enjoy the festivities and then walk up and walk through Memorial Hall.
we got some great food Friday night coming at Oak Fest. Band, Holy Smokes, be playing on Main Street. We've got several food trucks. And so, I mean, it's worth coming out on Main Street on Friday night and having a good time. And if you've been to Oak Fest on Saturday, that's usually always great. So, hope to see you guys there.
How will people be conveyed to the Memorial Hall with the closure of Main Street?
Well, it's a short walk. If they
It'll
want to
be
walk down.
like road march.
Yeah, it'll be a walk down. Is what it will be. And with a beer tent, and maybe stumbling down.
Well, they can also access it from Water Street.
Yeah, go up
and come up the
like
back
School
way.
Street.
There's plenty of parking there, so.
That's just when people ask, I mean,
Yeah.
there's not gonna be a trolley, it'll be Shanksmere.
I think when we have the organized tours on Saturdays and Sundays, we'll have a pretty good crowd going through those. And we'll get the word out heavy on that.
Mr. Nutting, did you have anything? Sir?
I do not, sir.
Yeah, I have one other announcement that is sort of town oriented. If you haven't noticed, Oakland and Waterville are hosting the World Series for the Cal Ripken Little League age kids. It's going to be August 6th through, I think, the 12th or 13th. They're going to be teams from all over the country here. They're staying in Waterville at various motels. Their families may be, visiting, staying over. We have Monday through Friday, the games will be at Little Fenway on McGraw Pond Road. It's 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. We're hoping that the businesses downtown get involved to some extent. I'm guessing that I don't want to single out different people because I don't know what they're doing, but the corner store. There will be people driving right by it, and I'm sure some of them are going to stop for food. So there will be more traffic. I don't expect it to be overwhelming. 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, Monday through Friday on that full week. And the championship game will be held at Little Wrigley, which is in Waterville, over the weekend, the second week. So, it's an unbelievable thing that Central Maine was able to capture the World Series. People from Hawaii, perhaps, people from Seattle, people from San Diego are going to have their kids here playing ball.
And they're in dire need of volunteers.
Yes. because you can imagine how many volunteers it's gonna take to run this.
One more time. Anybody else in the crowd have anything to say? Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Second, all in favor. Good night, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.